Okay, on Friday we had a quiz, and this was a quiz that went over the do now assignment the day before. And what we had to do was we had to take the equation, the given linear equation, y minus 5 is equal to 3x. And we had to take that equation and we had to write it in both standard form and slope-intercept form. So let's quickly review once again what these two forms mean, and then we'll answer the question. Alright, standard form, we needed to try to get the line, the equation of the line, in this form with both x and y on the same side of the equal sign, where a, b, and c are integers. And then the slope-intercept form is to get y by itself on one side of the equal sign, and then the coefficient in front of x was the slope, and the constant was where the line crossed the y-axis, or what we call the y-intercept. So taking a look at our equation once again, y minus 5 is equal to 3x. The first thing we had to do was we had to take that equation and we had to get it in standard form. So what we would do is we try to get the x's on the same side of the equal sign and get that constant over on the other side. So I'd bring the 3x over by subtracting 3x from both sides. I would then get a negative 3x plus y minus 5 equals 0. And then from there, I would take the 5 and I'd move it across the equal sign and put the 5 over where the 0 was to isolate the x's and the y's. And it would look something like this, plus 5, which will give me minus 3x plus y is equal to 5. And that would be the equation of my given line in standard form. So that would be my answer for A. Moving on to the slope-intercept form of the equation of a line, again we would start with y minus 5 is equal to 3x. I would just try to get the y by itself, so this will be done a little quicker by adding 5 to both sides. I would get y is equal to 3x plus 5. And then this is the slope-intercept form of my line, which would be my final answer for part B of our quiz. Moving on now to part C of the quiz, which was find the slope and y-intercept. Well, if we were looking for the slope and y-intercept, we would start with the answer we got from part B, because that is already in slope-intercept form. And then the slope of my line would just be the number in front of my x value, which is 3. And the y-intercept, the b, would be 5. And there's my answer for part C. Moving on to D. Well, what D wanted us to do was D wanted us to graph the linear equation below on the given axis using the slope and y-intercept. Alright, so the below on the given axis, let's see if I can get all this stuff in. I'll write it a little bit, I'll write it below what we have, but we're trying to take the equation which we had, y equals 3x plus 5, and then using what we found out in part C, we found out that the slope was 3. I'm going to write that as a fraction, and my y-intercept was 5. when we're graphing a linear equation using those two pieces, we're not going to set up a table of values. We're going to start where we're going to start at the y-intercept, which is going to be a +5. That means when I get to the y-axis, which is your vertical axis, I go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I make a dot. That's going to be where your line crosses your y-axis. And then from there, I'm going to use my slope. Now remember, what slope is the numerator is going to be your change in your y over your change in your x. So from the point that I graphed, I'm going to go 1 in the x, positive 1 in the x, and then a positive 3 in the y. So here we go. I'm going to go a positive 1 in the x, that puts me here, and then a positive 3 in the y. There's the next point in the line. Do it at least one more time. Positive 1 in the x from that point. 1, 2, 3 in the y. Your 3 dots. Take your ruler. I'm going to do it by freehand now if you guys don't mind. Draw your line. And then make sure you label that line. In this case, it's going to be y equals 3x plus 5. And that's your answer for part D. And then finally E, or not E, but number 2, which is on the bottom. Let's see if I can get this here. All right. Number 2 was to take a look at 2 points on a line, and we are to go ahead. We are going to try to find the slope of that line given these 2 points. Well, in class we talked about a formula that represented my slope, which was m, and the formula we were supposed to know for this quiz was the y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And one of the ways we could make this problem a little bit easier for ourselves is if we went to the points, if you wanted to, and you can label this point is your 1 point, so this is my x1 and my y1, and then this is my x2 and my y2, if you needed to do that. And then you can simply just plug that into your slope formula, which starts off with your y2, and the y2 is going to be a 2, minus your y1, which is an 8, over your x1, which is a 5, minus your x2, sorry, which is a 5, minus your x1, which is a 3. You wind up with a negative 6 over 2, so your slope turns out to be negative 3. And that concludes the quiz that we took on Friday.